previously talked about a serenade, polk salad Annie, if I were in the army, and what that might kind of entail and be like for my god Hades. And I was like, what about going the other direction? What about me with a army service serenade for my god Hades? So this is kind of taking that and reversing the direction. And would my army service god Hades serenade include a Leica camera equipped microscope? So it's actually kind of an interesting one. From my perspective, that's why I chose it. I was like, this is just interesting enough based on my background that might be a serenade kind of thing. So today is Monday, 29 June 2026, and here I, Tanis, she, her, hers of Seattle, reflect on using Leica camera equipped microscope. Yeah, I'll leave it in that kind of awkward terminology, as part of my university coursework and research/work in mineralogy, petrology, and volcanology, and whether I would extend my usage of the setup to serenade my god Hades in an army military service context. So I was reading not too long ago, one of the military books that I read mentioned Leica as a company that produced the scope on sniper rifles, and I was like, Leica? Like, I use Leica in undergraduate coursework, university level, and research and work in mineralogy, petrology, and volcanology. And Leica cameras, so there was a microscope. It says it's past tense, right? I've done this. There's a microscope. There's a scope, so to speak, and then that looks down at a stage where a sample is placed, and underneath the sample is a light bulb, and the light can be turned on, and then depending on how fancy the microscope is, the brightness of the light can be adjusted. And then there's particular, some microscopes are heavy duty. We actually had in my mineralogy and petrology classes, were assigned microscopes with a lab, with somebody, a microscope partner. They were like $10,000 microscopes, and they had a camera attached at the top as well. And so it could take what are called photomicrographs of a thin slice of rock on the microscope stage. You could take different pictures, which I took a lot of. And so Leica was a company behind the particular microscopes that I have used. And so we were assigned partners, and they had their own locker, and there were locks on them. That microscope is not the University of Hawaii at Mauna. Okay, I was like, and to date, it is actually the most cutting edge technology setup I have encountered for mineralogy. Okay, in some, and not that other places didn't have the microscopes. They were, let's call them fresh microscopes. And so there we go. And when I was there, so how could, and we looked at different types of rock, natural materials, and so I'm going, how would I do that for my god Hades if I were in the army? Because it would kind of be like, well, wouldn't that be more like the sniper scope on the rifle? Well, I'm a private, so I'm not even a sniper yet, or if I ever become, so there's a little bit of that may or may not be applicable. So based on my background, do I have a setup in my residence, or let's say I'm residing with my Elvis Presley, and there might be others that were residing on the same residence as us. Does his Memphis Mafia have a house? And so I have to go to the Memphis Mafia house to use my Leica microscope. But it'd be very cool to make it an army service god Hades serenade. Would be kind of like collecting materials, perhaps, from where the war is. So if I were in war in Northern Ireland, do I find a cool rock and make a thin section or have a thin section made and then do it and kind of like, and do it as in like, and then take that thin section and put it on the microscope and maybe come up with like artwork, be it picture, photo micrographs of pictures or something else to kind of like keep me true in my aim in my military, my army service pursuit, in terms of like being guided by my god Hades. So kind of allow it to naturally evolve that way. Another one would be the military is really, in my experience, not with the Leica microscope, was I found that there's a lot of cutting edge materials research in military settings, especially for defense, so like protective material and armor and that kind of thing. I was like, watch me find something cool about teeth that could like help, like I don't know, do something to my teeth, or but like materials with, be it armor, weaponry, or like bodily application in military settings. And like, so there's like the continuation of natural materials, but there's also like the like nature inspired materials and kind of like cutting edge that becomes like a collage, so to speak, for a God Hades serenade for me. But yeah, could it include, I guess, so reflecting on my usage and then thinking forwards, could I extend it? Yes, it would require me being tuned in to my god Hades. How does he communicate to me in a military setting, and what would that final form be? Or and does it need to be adaptable or not, or that kind of thing? Or does it end up being just one picture or one photo micrograph? But being open, and I have to stay true to it. Coming up with a Tanis standards procedure for selecting that one photo micrograph or one picture. It has to be, what are, like, I take one, this is it, and then like come up with a set of standards as to if it were replaced, it has to be replaced in the corresponding army service, right? So then do I end up with 3, one for each service if I do 3 military services, army services, and then like for each there's one, and then there's one overall? Is it one of the 3 or is it a different one? Right, a serenade that includes my rigidity and my standards, and that perhaps my god Hades would appreciate me defining how I'm loyal and true to him. So there we go.